house gang.
Welcome to another fresh episode of the Fresh Mondays podcast, episode number 75.
This is a special episode because it's been a while, maybe a year in time or something like that. But if you can see us on YouTube, you can tell we're next to each other. So, so super exciting to be in the same space. It was like we saw each other yesterday. So it just went right into the flow. And I was like, oh no, we really just haven't physically been in the same space for some time. So this is exciting.
So interesting. For those of you who ever thought of starting a podcast with someone who lives in another state, because that's our story. I was actually telling a friend the other day, I was like, it's funny because we've developed this really unique friendship because 80% of our conversations are recorded and they're public information. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, I've never had a relationship like that. You know, like a person that you have documented conversations with.
So is this technically like almost a pen pal?
It's like the modern day pen pal.
Pen pal, or like when the army guys were away and they were sending letters. Like it has that mysterious streak to it where like I really physically do not get to see this person, but I feel them every day and like you know what I mean? Right?
Yeah, in a sense, but it's documented and people get to like listen. So it's cool. Like I've definitely never had a friendship this way. So it's like cool.
And it works, people. It just works. That's the fun part in it. It just super works. We are excited for this week's episode. We're bringing you a new episode. We've been gone for a little bit. I've been all over the place. Life is just fluid. As others would say.
That is the word for Marley. She has been in multiple states recently.
You would think I was balling, but things are just happening, which is great. Thanks to God, and things are possible in family and friends. So we're excited to bring you this episode, us being together, the topics we're going to talk about, what we have coming up, what the future looks like. And I'm excited for what's next and what's forward for us. Last week's or 2 weeks ago episode was with Joseph Kahn from Universe, which I think blew our minds, each one of us.
For sure.
Because it was a concept like Shark Tank. Why didn't I think about that?
Right. And you know what's funny? Straight feedback, if he gets to listen to this episode, definitely. My friend is an Android user, and she was like, I'm just waiting for them to drop it on Android because he only has it on the iOS platform. So people couldn't create their own, websites from their cell phones because she's, Android. So they need to make it a more universal app.
If I had a little soundboard.
Yeah. So, but aside from that, super cool, super mobile. People want the ability to make things from their device because that is what we use 24/7. And we like things to be convenient.
Now, being that your friend is on the Android, should she really just kind of come to the dark side?
I really am so annoyed with the Android Apple war. Like, they did this, right?
Yeah.
And they made this. This is why we pay so much money for the phones.
To Joseph Kahn again for joining us and being inspirational in the sense of like, we really need to get our creative asses on, like kicked in gear, because there's needs out there, necessities that people haven't really put together and thought of. So
I'm willing to pay for it.
Willing to pay for it. If you make it, they'll come. They shall come.
Yeah.
And speaking of creativity, this week, we're again talking about one of our favorite passions and our excitements, music. So I think we're going to dive deeper into music later this episode too. We have a special guest. His name is Omi. He is the founder and creative director. And we're going to talk about music management, what it is to be part of the music industry, how to push artists forward, being creative, and I guess in this social world, how do you become super creative and think outside that box and beat all the others that are up and coming artists as well and get recognized and noticed out there? All right, guys, and now we are joined by Omi. He is the creative director of OmniWave Global.
Yes.
Introduce yourself to our Fresh Mondays listeners. Tell them about yourself, what you do, and what is OmniWave Global.
Okay. Well, my name's Omi Glenn, and I am the creative director at OmniWave Global. OmniWave Global is a marketing firm, marketing management firm specific to the entertainment industry. So music, musicians, venues, pretty much anything that is tied into nightlife and entertainment.
Oh, very cool. Okay, so let's start with this, the name. I noticed that the name is your name. So how did you come up with that?
Yeah. So OmniWave Global is Omni meaning all. Wave is music files, raw music files, and global being global. So
Right.
OmniWave Global. It's also my initial OWG.
Oh, I like that. That's pretty cool. That's like a hat waiting to happen.
Possibly.
There you go, branding. I think like that. So let's talk a little bit about how you decided to start using marketing to promote the music industry, because marketing is such a translucent type of career path because you can actually mold into what's needed. So
Right.
I learned that at an older age, unfortunately. So it's like you realize, you know what?
I think I did too. So I was always into music. I was always into the music business aspect of it. I managed an artist, or attempted to manage an artist like a decade ago, and I had events. I had local open mic stuff like that, showcases, and it was a lot of guerrilla marketing back then. So it was a lot of me literally going to everybody I knew on a daily basis, whoever I got across in the malls or just whoever, local people, just handing out flyers, just basic guerrilla marketing. Fast forward, I started to get into digital marketing, and I started working with a company doing their digital marketing financial space, right? So a few years later, when I decided to go back into music, I didn't want to do it traditionally. So the idea is basically to create a platform for the artist, because I don't say like he signs to my label, right? It's more so he's one of my clients, right? And it's more so me teaching him how to market himself online, create that digital space, create that digital presence, stuff like that.
Right.
Because
so what was the old way of doing it?
The old way it was doing it was exactly what labels do. They keep the art. It's like keeping the artist in a shadow. So you really don't know what's going on. You just know the outcome. Where now where there's much more success in indie labels and indie artists and stuff like that. And it's still kind of how do they do it mindset, but it's really just them partnering up with marketing companies and people in digital ad space and stuff like that.
I like that idea of more of a client base, because at the end of the day, the client still has to take some sort of responsibility.
Exactly.
For what that outcome is, because it's not all put pressure on you.
Right.
Or on the label or whatever in which way, but the artist needs to be more involved nowadays. And I think with social media and how digital marketing works, the personal side of artists is what we're more attached to. So and we can tell when an artist or just a celebrity, anybody of some sort, is not involved in their social media. You can tell when this is all these paid ads and you're just like in these sponsored or like these pre-written. Have you ever seen an artist actually copy and paste
there are
an ad?
So in that same space, there's like in digital marketing, there's something called UG, which is UGC, user generated content, right? And typically companies like American Airlines, right?
Mm-hmm.
A decade ago, American Airlines would pay $2 million to create some type of marketing ad for a billboard to put up in Times Square,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, companies like Fashion Nova are simply saying, hey, y'all take pictures of our products all day long. We'll just take those user-generated content
Mm-hmm.
and use those, and we don't have to spend $2 million
Right.
to, you know, so artists are doing stuff like that where, like, you know, we have Cardi going with Fashion Nova, stuff like that, where they're more just partnering up with different marketing agencies that's going to help brand them.
Right. It's like a brand ambassador. I mean,
Right,
basically,
exactly.
it's become a profession to be a brand ambassador.
Exactly. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
It's actually fascinating if you think about 10 years ago, you go from guerrilla marketing to like stuffing it in people's faces, and now you're pushing it in people's faces in a different way.
But you're definitely still pushing it in people's faces. You know what I'm saying? Like it's all day online.
But now there's ways to kind of hide that. So, you know, it doesn't seem as it like before when you're guerrilla marketing, it's like if someone's literally coming up to you, forcing a flyer on you. Like we've all been there, and like
it's annoying.
Yeah, that's annoying.
I still had people force a CD to me.
Oh yeah,
in Seattle. Okay, I was like, "Sir, where does this play?" The CD. But see, people still use some traditional ways.
Right. And then I feel bad because I'm like, I'm probably gonna throw this away, and you spent money on this. You know what I'm saying? And it's like,
so definitely love the direction and moving with the trends of what's happening with social media.
Right.
So what are some like out of the box or creative ways that you've slowly started to integrate, like to put into the way that you guys market for artists or clients?
So as far as marketing and stuff, a lot of things that we try to do is user-generated content, because that is, it's like, so artists, I don't know if you see a lot of artists who use apps like Thriller now and TikTok and just using challenges, like, you know, like that's really how most of these songs get streamed and these artists are generating money, is because they don't have to make music videos anymore. They can just put out the full track, for all that matters. They put out a 15-second clip of the song and say, hey, here's a challenge, go. And everyone does it, and it requires you then playing their song again in the challenges. So, you know, that those all count as streams when you're uploading and playing it. And so just creating different ways like that, using different apps. Like, you know, TikTok is another different one, another app that just came out a few years ago. That's a lot of artists are kind of.
A lot of kids are on TikTok,
right. And
let me tell you. I like these 10-year-olds.
Keep in mind, those are the people that are going searching and trying new apps. And, you know, like I'm 33, like I'm accustomed to what I'm accustomed to. You know, I'm not.
I think all of us are like, I don't want to download a TikTok right now. Like
I get annoyed when it's an app. I have to
how to do music video editing, and you know, like, but they make it look so cool. Like it's really a simple app, but you know, like,
but is TikTok a mix of what we were using 6 years ago,
like
with Vine and Musical.ly?
Of course. Yes. Yeah, of course.
So we already had it.
Of course. It's just Vine was based off of it, you know, it's a platform where kind of like Instagram is. It's a multitude of communities throughout. Where TikTok, it's based off of just you picking a song and dancing to that song, you know?
Okay.
So
I feel like an old lady. Like, yeah, tell me about TikTok. Tell me what I need to know.
You gotta learn the dances.
Right, like little, because I was into Vine.
So.
No, but I was into Vine. Vine was dope, and shout out to all those people who made themselves
like comedians,
millionaires, and lived this fantastic life from those 6 seconds that they spent on there. And so it's amazing to see.
But Vine's downfall was that they didn't want to sell to Facebook, and then Facebook eventually just bought them out and killed them.
Oh, the monster. Yeah.
Right. The monster.
Hey, like I said, we sometimes just gotta go to the dark side. You go to Apple, you go to
that, like, we just gotta keep up. We have ways to to evolve and
Right.
grow with what's happening.
We did notice that we were looking through your Instagram page and your artists that you're managing currently, and I noticed that you have like a little bit of a old school feel to some of the covers. Like you had like a vinyl record and then like the name and then like it gave me
Okay.
like that old school feel. Is that
Yeah.
kind
So
of
that.
like your style, clean?
Yeah. Yeah. I like clean. I like simple, simplistic type stuff, designs. Um, I do most, if not all, the designs myself, so they kind of always come out as my personality more than the
Right.
artist. um, but yeah, that's kind of one of the struggles of creating for other people.
I
Is
like it.
trying to
Honestly,
their
feedback
vision.
is nice.
It is nice. I think I'm a minimalist in myself too when it comes to creative work. So you just like,
Me too.
that
Me
works.
too.
Mhm.
It just makes it simple. So how is it looking for or like working with artists and convincing them or explaining to them the necessity of social media or putting themselves out there or the new way of doing
So
things?
It's 4 o'clock.
that is a tough. That is a
That was-
tough. That is a tough path because uh social media it blindsides people, right? Because there's what's real and what's not real, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of times artists they have a hard time finding out where that line is, you know. So especially manage or having a new artist, working with a new artist, a lot of times they want to be at a certain status immediately, not knowing that most of these artists aren't exactly where it's painted, so
Yeah, people are looking for
that,
microwave results. They want to just pop it in
and
there and get it
not
right
only
away.
necessarily microwave results, but more so is that on Instagram and Facebook, Twitter, like most of these social medias, the artists they only show us the good. They
Of
only
course,
show us the fancy. They
everyone does
only
that.
show us the luxury, right? So it's more so as if you don't have that, then you're not an artist.
Mm.
So sometimes it's do you want the music to be heard or do you want to make money? Because then
Right. But
maybe making
aren't
music is
you already tired of the fake Lamborghini videos? Because I feel like
right.
I'm over that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
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 So I would say working with new artists, especially with social media, it's like their idea is, oh, this is what my campaign needs to be like. It needs to have the Lamborghinis and the this and and a lot of the time
It's
that's
like
not
the missing of the grind portion of it, like the grinding it out, the
or not
patience of
necessarily.
it
Yeah, but
is
more
missing.
so it's missing it lacks the creativity. It's everybody just wants to say, well, here's the blueprint because that person already did it. I can just do that instead of trying to figure out other creative ways of, marketing and
That's true. And I think, and that's people probably younger than us, I guess you could say. Like, I
yeah,
think we have the realistic standpoint of, or have learned after a couple years that this is the instant gratification, the way you can set it up, the way you can kind of put this together, your social and all that stuff isn't real life, isn't realistic. So, and we had to function without internet and
Yeah,
without
but
social.
honestly, you can't blame people for wanting to get those numbers. Like all of us like to preach and act real righteous, but I've been in radio stations before. I've been when they pick talent. I've been in
right.
situations when
Perception
people
means a
select
lot.
someone and they're
Perception,
looking for, are they at 10K? They don't
right, right.
care if the
Listen,
content is good. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
perception means a lot. So I get that, and it's a it's a tough balance to have, but it's something I work with, and it's definitely not the
It's a
easiest thing.
combination of you can't blame people for thinking that they need to do those same things because some people are not even given an opportunity if they don't have a certain social media presence,
Right,
unfortunately.
right,
And nowadays, even in corporate setting, I can tell you guys this much, that your social media presence determines how you get hired in a corporate job.
right.
If you're
Yeah.
working in a marketing field,
Oh, yeah.
I work in a marketing field and that like campaign wise and creativeness, and they'll be like, what's your social media? I'm like, my social is literally my friends and family. There's no creativity outside of that. Like, I don't use this as a creativity standpoint.
Right.
Using
Not a gateway to anything else, you know. It's
right. But I know people who set up their entire social to be their resume, to be that setup for the job.
I get that.
A blogger can set this up for their a blogger set it up and end up at Facebook and work at Facebook from blogging. Right. So you have to have this. It's fascinating. I think I have to change my direction. But continue.
No, I was saying that's definitely something I try to instill in clients that I work with, is to try to find ways to go direct to the source. Because if a lot the whole is Instagram paying you, right? Like, a lot of people are getting paid from Instagram because of advertising from
but it's like $100.
Right, you know?
Right.
So what I try to teach artists is, like, direct your campaigns to exactly what's going to pay you. Direct it directly to your YouTube, direct it directly to your Spotify, you know? Don't worry about how much followers you have if your Spotify streams is shown, you know? So
Right.
that's something we try to work with.
Speaking of streaming services, how does that, do you have an idea of how that payout is? Or like, is it like in the same YouTube sense of where you have to reach a certain amount to actually have some sort of revenue or something in return?
Yeah. So, they're all pretty bad as far as payouts, right?
Because they can be at this point.
But the idea is, and I guess Chance the Rapper is probably the artist that kind of created the blueprint of, the idea is to just get your music heard, right? Mm-hmm. So he put out 3 projects for free. Don't quote me on the numbers, but he put out a few projects for free, and didn't charge for an album until like this year, you know? And the reason is, if people are hearing your music, then they'll pay for your shows. And a ticket sale to a show is much more than the percentage of penny that the streaming's paying. So, you know, the streaming services is really just for them to hear your music. You know, it's the new radio.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You know.
That's actually a good thought, because there's a lot of shows all the time.
Right.
There's a show.
So I would, you know, like, I don't think artists should be focused on trying to make money through streaming. Like, that's rare, you know. It's just, there's 1%ers on that, where there's the Drakes and artists like that that's going to really profit from streaming. Other than that, artists is going to get money from their shows, touring.
I never thought about that. As you say, like, just focus on the show. That makes sense. And it makes sense as to why you'll notice there's a lot of people going to certain other, like, random artist shows all the time. But I've never heard of this person before in my life. You know, how do you end up at this show?
Yeah.
And that's how you get, like,
because they have a hit.
They have a hit somewhere, but I don't know that damn hit. But there's a shit ton of people who do.
Right.
And sold out the show.
And then sometimes, as a consumer, that's a more enjoyable concert, because you're seeing 10 artists that have 10 songs that you really, really like.
Yeah.
Versus one artist playing his whole album, and he plays those tracks that you're like, I don't really like this song. So I get it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So I'm trying to think of, like, so what artists are you working with now? Kind of like what direction?
Well, right now I'm exclusively working with Julian. That's the cover and music that you've probably heard. And he's a new artist. Like, we're really just going through the development stage, you know, creating music. Of course, we put out a few songs and stuff, but we're just creating music, creating his image, his brand, merch.
How would you describe his music?
So how would I describe it? He's pretty eclectic. He can give you a little bit of Chris Brown type, new age R&B, but he was also, a singer from the church, in a sense, you know, so he can give you that soulful voice if needed. He plays the guitar, so he's pretty well well versed. He dances.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's pretty.
that's important for the music videos.
That's actually finding artists that have multiple kind of functionalities, I guess you can say.
Right.
Like more than the triple threat kind of thing is a more viable thing.
But you got to be like that now. This ain't a game no more.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like kids be 7 and like great dancers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you gotta.
Makes me know that for my future children, you gotta have a guitar, you gotta have a piano,
A violin.
a violin.
Because everyone can, with the digital programs that's around, everyone in sense can create music. You know,
Yes.
what else can you do that's going to put it over the edge? You know, and that's kind of why now most producers are getting more recognition than artists.
Right.
You know a lot more producers than we would in the past.
That's true. Yeah.
They have more longevity than the artists at this point.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually, you know, right. We know more producers' names, their faces,
Yeah.
than we've ever known before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We knew a Timberland, you knew Pharrell, like that simplistic. But then now you're like, no, I know Murder Beats, and I know what so and so looks like, and I know homie graduated from college while making this beat for Drake, and you'd be like, in college, I was not focused on nothing. Yeah. So that's super interesting. So what is upcoming for you guys? What's the next move? What do you guys have going on?
We're actually releasing, I don't know when this is, we're releasing a single called Fade Away November 1st. That's Friday. And then ending the year rebranding in a sense. A company rebrand and not necessarily rebranding him as an artist, but putting his brand out there, because that's something we kind of haven't done yet. We've been putting music out, but we haven't really started trying to create a social presence or creating any type of
so you have a campaign coming up,
marketing behind it. Really just been focusing on the development. You know, he had a few performances this year. I think he had about 6 to 8 performances.
Nice.
So yeah, just like local Florida shows, you know, trying to get him more involved in the scene. He is young. He just turned 20 like 3 days ago. So
you hear him like, oh, he's cute.
You know, so yeah, just really just going through the development, and we feel we have enough music that's worth putting out now. So
that's solid music that you're like,
definitely.
This is ready to go.
Definitely.
Awesome. Now, if anyone here in the South Florida area wanted to use your skills and talents to help them brand themselves, would they be able to reach you as well?
Yeah, of course. They can email me through, you know, my Instagram or omniwaveglobal@gmail.com. If they're in the South Florida area, if they show up to an event, I'm probably going to be there. I'm trying to go as much events as possible. So yeah, I mean, there's ways. If they want to get in contact, they'll get in contact.
Awesome.
You're in the right market in the right area.
Yeah.
One thing I missed while I was in Seattle, I had to figure out Seattle scenes about music and kind of what's happening. I can tell you, no artists go to Seattle.
No, but Seattle does have a huge underground scene, though.
Exactly. So if I was excited, if I wanted to see, well, Drake came to Seattle. That's okay. I'm trying to do a little bit more next tier below.
But even then, those artists don't come to South Florida. They don't. They go to Atlanta, and they might go to like a Jacksonville or Orlando, but they don't come to.
I think depending on the market,
they're not coming here.
You're right. I guess it's depending on the market. I think for me, the music market of Seattle was not for me.
Right.
Because not everyone was there, but like Tiana Taylor showed up, and she's a smaller market, kind of like specific to the area, and that worked. I was like, ooh, I like that. And
but it's
like,
weird for even like a Tiana Taylor to come to South Florida, because she's not gonna fill up the AAA. But she's also not going to go to.
I feel so bad. I feel bad. We are like, no.
But she's also not going to do a 1306 or whatever either. You know, she's gonna, and there's no venues that.
Yeah, but she could do a club. You know.
Yeah,
She
so
can have a cameo night.
so that's kind of why those second tier artists don't come to South Florida, just
Yeah.
because it lacks venue. Really, there's
No, but she comes to like stuff like Rolling Loud, I would say. That
right,
kind
but
of,
that's
yeah.
that's a different thing now. Now, if we're talking festivals,
Yeah.
then I mean, that's really where all the artists are doing is festivals,
Right.
because
I did
places
my nails next to her once. It was really awesome.
I remember you said that.
Yeah.
I realized when I've been here at home, and I'm like, you guys have all this access to all these different venues, things going on, such a wide berth. And my time in Seattle was very much like, okay, I know like half of a song from this person, or I follow this person on Instagram, and they're gonna be here. Does that make sense? Like, you're just like, it's really smaller knit community, and I'll run into the same 20 people that I was at the last event. Like, it's in that sense, but it still felt good. I think you felt more of a close knit to them,
right?
and it's a little bit more of my underground music. Not all my friends listen to or know, so that made it feel like a different connection.
Right.
So I think it's just interesting to see how widespread apart the country and just you think about worldwide is when it comes to music and what they listen to and what's out there. So for any artist, there is a niche, there's a market, there is a direction for you.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Out here. So anybody can make it in a sense if you're what specifically to what your market is.
As far as the hip hop market, most of these tours and stuff make their money from like the Midwest of them. Like, like they're going to Minnesota and Kentucky and Tennessee, and like
That's
they're
true.
going to where most of these college campuses are, and those college towns and stuff.
Yeah.
That's a great start. That's very true. Well, tell the Fresh Money Podcast listeners how to contact you, all your Instagram handles. I think you told us November 1st, brand new single or new things dropping and things like that.
My Instagram is Omi Glenn. My artist Julian, his Instagram is World X Julian. And you can check his music out on Spotify, Apple Music. Type in Julian, and we have a new single coming out on November 1st called Fade Away.
Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Thank y'all.
And we'll be listening.
And we will be listening.
All right.
All right, bye. Having Omni on the part of our conversation. Omi. But no, the company's name Omni.
Yes. Okay,
right.
Sorry.
So it's a play on words.
Yes.
I like that. Initials. He has like the NWA thing coming.
Yeah.
Right. So, it was really cool. And it was nice to speak to a person who kind of is giving you a different perspective on how to be an artist. Like a lot of times everybody just thinks that they can do like a real ridiculous video, and on YouTube you get a bunch of views.
Yeah.
And now, because that's the way they make it seem, like that's how that person blew up.
That's how they project it into their life, and they think they're making money
right
from that. The popularity that's what I like to put the conversation. Popularity does not equate to finances or monetary.
Right.
All the time.
Right.
All the time.
So and also, I think a great takeaway was that just because you don't have a lot of followers, make sure to invest your energy in what does provide capital. Yes. You know what I mean? And like kind of having a process where you are automatically feeding that YouTube account or feeding that Spotify streaming account, because that's where the real value is going to come. And don't focus so much on the fact that you don't have, 15,000 followers.
These are gems, people. Are you listening? Right. If you're like trying to, and I know some of that stuff we always be like, okay, we need to apply for ourselves and like future things like that. But like, these are truly the way in the direction things are moving in the industry, in all industries, in all areas of life. You really need to focus and put down on that.
Because as you mentioned, you've done marketing for companies, you've done marketing for independent business owners. So it's like, it's such a great tool and a great business to have and to do freelancing on it, because someone's always going to need a marketer.
Yes.
You have to invest in that.
Not everyone is a marketer. Sometimes business owners think they can just market it themselves, and especially old routines, and don't like getting out of the habit. So having a marketer, someone who can really give you the new perspective, the new direction of things to kind of help you move forward, or like bring in more revenue in other ways, is super beneficial.
What do you think is like an outdated marketing mistake that some people make?
For me, direct mail.
Okay.
So if it's not a part of your market. So if I am a senior home facility, my best direction would be direct mail, because there's a likelihood, and that all depends on the research. I'm just saying in general. So if research shows me that seniors 65 and over respond to whatever was in the mail, we can do that, right?
It's more consumer focused.
Yes, directly. So, but if I know that in my research, someone in their 23 is paperless, right? Going direct mail is not their option. Right. That's a waste of a coupon code. That's a waste of numbers. That's expensive. Also direct mail. So that to me is what is kind of needs to be outed.
Right. A little archaic,
but also depending on your market.
Right.
So focus on what is your market and what you have your consumers are at.
So since we were speaking to a person that dabbles in the music industry and is trying to get their foot in the door and has an artist out there that's young, let's talk about a veteran artist at this point that just dropped a gospel album.
Yes, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
So with full on transparency, I have not heard not a single piece, and not because I didn't like avoided it or didn't I just didn't. I listen to podcasts when I drive. I listen to like the radio. I'm like an old lady, so I have not played music in a while. So I just have not had a chance to listen to it.
Okay.
I have an openness. If it's playing, I'll listen. But haven't gotten to it yet. But go ahead.
I actually listened to it at the gym today.
Did you say who it is? I'm sorry.
Kanye West. Kanye West. He has a gospel album.
We don't mean to call the man my bad. Kanye West album, Jesus is King. Yes. Which is a fact. The statement.
Right.
Will continue.
And the gym is one of those places that you can kind of switch it up on what you want to listen to if you go a lot. Like you don't always have to have, dubstep music that's like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes you just want information and you listen to like a podcast or you listen to a YouTube, or sometimes you want to listen to something a little bit more mellow and it works out. Yeah. So yes, I know it sounds weird to listen to a gospel album while you're working out. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But I just wanted to be able to listen to it without getting the ADD kicking in and skipping tracks.
Yes.
Because sometimes it's easier to listen to something while you're doing something so that you won't feel like
what is this playing?
Right.
Keep going. Yeah.
I honestly thought it was good. I don't think it was something that I would listen to every day, but there were tracks on there that you're just like, yo, he's really talking about his faith and God right now. And he's saying something really beautiful. And he's really praising Jesus, and he's really doing a positive message. And it's like, I'm sure people are going to have a lot to say about this. And a lot of it is going to be negative. But a lot of these artists put music that say a lot of satanic things. And I'm not even one of those people. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, we're okay with that. You feel me? Yeah. But what is the problem if he puts an album about God and Jesus?
No, of course. I don't think there's ever a problem of him redirecting or focusing more on his faith. Because it always was there.
Right.
I mean, we have Jesus Walks.
Right.
Like, it's always been there. It's always been incorporated. I mean, it's always been there since College Dropout has, gospel singers in the background. And that's always
Life of Pablo.
Yes, Life of Pablo has it. So it's always been there. I think for some, it's just how the direction of it went and how, because if you watch interviews, it's still, and it's in the way he's a man who doesn't know how to delegate or process his words altogether. So sometimes you gotta get lost in translation. You have to find the translation. So you assume that the music is gonna be probably lost in translation sometimes because it's a new topic and a direction that you went into. So I'm only assuming for like how people would feel. For me, I fell off. Again, I've been really separated from music recently in general. So I haven't even listened to the last album, and it's not even him. I have just multiple artists who I haven't listened to. So I have a different, like, I'll get to it when I get to it feel. But I think that as long as he's not preachy, because a lot of his listeners are super open to it. Tell us where you are in your current state, right? In your life, because that's what music you attach to.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you're not preachy, forcing it on others. Because we don't like that from anybody.
Right. But I think one of the things that I gathered from this piece of work is that he discusses how the Christian religion is very judgmental.
Okay,
and that religion is not faith in his eyes.
Perfect.
So he does, that message does translate. And, you know, no offense to anyone's belief systems, but I can understand how we've all experienced kind of feeling judgment from people who are very involved in church.
Yes. And that's what I'm saying. As long as you're not a preachy forced upon, because we've all had that before, have all felt that experience in some way, and the judgment of it. And I think that's, I guess, for myself as a person who grew up in Catholic church and those kind of things, and now you're just kind of like, yes, I understand what church is, but I'll call myself a Catholic because I know the information. I still have trust in I'm going to say some parts of the values and the morals and the understanding of that, but I don't go to every day.
Exactly.
I'm not a full-on practicing Catholic in that.
Right.
So that's why, as long as that translates, that the album isn't that forced upon you, because I think that's people's kind of
and I think that's what makes people hesitant.
Yes, there's a little reserve. Like, what are you giving?
Exactly. And I mean, I know you guys probably saw it on social media or watched the Keeping Up with the Kardashians and saw the clip when he told Kim, I'm not comfortable with your overexposure and your nudity and showing, you know, your goods to the world. And she responded, in my opinion, in a very realistic, appropriate Kim Kardashian way. You know what I'm saying? She was like, you influenced me to be this sexual being and to be this like figure of like beauty. Like you encouraged me, like you gave me that final confidence. Because let's be honest, like she just started doing the naked thing until Kanye. You see what I'm saying? And then she's like, now you're going through your journey.
Don't force it upon me.
Right. But if he's gonna now become Kanye the preacher, can his wife be naked online?
She's still an individual. She's still herself. Right. And so they have to, in their relationship, have to agree upon what direction, I guess, the family goes as a whole. Yeah. And then have an understanding of individuals in that sense. Because you can go through a change in anything, like, you know, with your family, and it might separate you from your family if you weren't like married, or like my family doesn't. If we were to convert to different religions or something, you're not going to participate. You may not participate in your family's things. Right. So I think it's just all in like their own circle of understanding. I would be perfectly fine. Like, I love Kim anyways. So regardless of what she probably decided, whatever. But I think it would have to be a compromise on both parts for like, if it was myself in that situation, we'd have to figure out a compromise in it. Yeah, and because he's evolved, it may not be her time yet as well. And that's where the preachy part, like being forced upon, it's sometimes you have to let people wait it out and find it on their own terms. Just like he found himself in this current state on his own terms. Look at all that man went through. Right, to get to this point. And we don't know, because Kanye has evolved in several different ways, right? The next evolution after this, we don't know where it's leading us. Sky's the limit at this point. If you would have told me in 2006, we went from Through the Wire to this. To church. To literally opening a church. Okay? Right. That's a whole different scale. Right. And so also, I was overhearing someone say that, like, his words have just always been the same. It's just there's extra little points of religion have been inserted in there, right? So it's just a small evolution. It's still a Kanye album. Trust me. When you hear it, you're gonna be like, this is what Kanye does. Like, he creates these patterns in the music that's like a story that has a lot of clever ways of saying the same thing. Like, you know, that's his artistry. Sure, that's still there. That's
our little music portion, and we cannot forget about
recommendations of the week.
Yes, it's that time.
So I'll start.
Mhm.
I had a fantastic weekend last week going to Blue Ridge, Georgia.
Mm.
Did I have that accent down? Maybe. That was my attempt to be a Georgian accent.
Yeah.
Southern Belle.
They do it really well.
Right.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
That's the fun part about exploring this country sometimes. Just any country that you just be like, oh, this is a whole other world that I'm stepping in. And people have a new level of accents.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, all right. Went to Blue Ridge, Georgia. Beautiful city, beautiful town. If you were looking almost like a Pleasantville.
Oh, I
feel.
love that movie. It's great.
Love it.
Yeah.
So it has that little town spirit. Everyone was so Southern and so sweet that you have preconceived thoughts in your heads.
Like you might trust them.
Not prior to, I'm saying like preconceived notions of like, we're going to the deep South, up north. We're not in Atlanta.
Right.
Right. And you have this preconceived, and then you get there and you're just like, oh no, people are beautiful.
Oh,
this is fantastic.
Awesome. That's really good to hear.
We had a fantastic time in a cabin trip deep in the woods. Little things that we would change, like arriving early, not in the dark, in the middle of the woods. It's not a great idea.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind, people. So I always suggest this, I think I've done it before, but try something new.
Right.
But take a cabin trip, go to the forest or the woods, only 2 hours away from the city.
Right.
So, or an hour and a half. So it's not that far. Right. Emergency can still find you. Helicopters can still land in some way, shape, or form if it really gets crazy. But go to the woods, take in nature, feel that out, which is a completely different experience, and I would do it all over again.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that recommendation, especially since I recently started traveling a little bit again. Like it's that feeling of stepping into another environment, weather, climate, everything. It's like, it's nice because it kind of gives you like a recharge.
Yes.
It's nice.
Yeah,
I agree.
Definitely.
Now, my recommendation is going to be a show on FX that's called Snowfall. Little fun fact about me, I love drug dealership. I find it super entertaining.
All right.
And I think it's like good TV. I don't know. So this is like dated in the 80s.
Okay.
And in Southern California.
Okay.
And very Cali, and all the actors have like that real Cali accent.
Love it.
Which is really dope, you know what I'm saying? And it shows how the cocaine business took over the California coastline, and how different people profited from it, and how it affects the Black community, how it affects the Mexican community, how the whole CIA had an involvement in it. So it kind of is very layered, and it's also gangster. So it's like, it's good to watch. You know what I'm saying? It's a good show. It's on FX.
Is this the step up from Power? I think
like Power is a great show because like the characters are all related somehow, and that's what I like about Power.
Okay.
But Snowfall kind of gives you different storylines. They are still intertwined somehow, but it's completely different storylines. You know what I'm saying? And but you get to see the different effects of the drug game.
Got it. I mean, I love a good drug movie too. Cocaine Cowboys kind of deal. That's a documentary, but you know.
Shout out.
You know, Miami. What else? Like, sorry guys, that's all we got. The correlation there.
Yeah.
But I love a good dramatization, real life story. Like, oh shit, like they were living differently.
Yeah.
Like you think about things that set you up from the 80s that are now.
Like now J-Lo is gonna be La Madrina from Cocaine Cowboys. Not very happy with that casting. But it's a story that you're like, yo, this shit is real. This really happened. This bitch was a killer.
This is for real.
Yeah.
But give her the benefit of the doubt. She did a great job in Hustlers. So.
All right. You're right. You're right. Can't hate on a fellow Latina.
Exactly. Give her give her a little benefit of the doubt there.
Yeah.
Well, guys, give us your opinion on what you think about this brand new Kanye album, right? I'd love to hear other people's thoughts on it. There's so many perspectives on it. Give me your thoughts on our recommendations, if you've tried them out, if you've done it once or twice. Anything else in the marketing world that we talked about, really dived deep into.
Yeah.
Thank you again to Omi to joining us for this episode. Shout outs to us to being in the same room at the same time, giving you real content, real life. So this was fantastic. Don't forget to follow us on here on YouTube. You should be subscribing down below. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, so you get that notification when a new episode drops. You can follow us at Fresh Mondays Podcast on Instagram and email us at freshmondayspodcast@gmail.com. You can follow me at Love Marley, LUVMARLEY_. And you can follow Diana
at I am Diana C _. That's I am Diana C as in cat _. And hit us up at any time, guys. We're open for the conversation. For those of you who have been emailing us to be on the show, I promise you, this week we're gonna set something up. Okay,
we're responding.
So yeah, enjoy your week, everybody. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.